From the Diary of Bill Lowie, Monday, 16 November. It is 11 o'clock at night, and I can't get to sleep. We were warned by G2 that the VC planned to attack our base tonight at midnight. Everyone is still jumpy over the Bien Hoa incident. We are also under a typhoon alert tonight, and it is raining now and has been for the past 48 hours. A perfect night for an attack. We have 2 flare ships on alert on the ramp, but it is doubtful if they can take off if the wind gets any stronger. We also have an 81 mortar right outside my bunk firing a flare every once in a while. This is one of the reasons I can't sleep. Growing up, it was normal. Mimo had her own room, sleeping in a large king-sized bed that we would also sleep in when we spent the night. Her antique doll collection took up most of the space anyway. The ceramic eyes always staring when you tried to sleep. Popi had his own room, much smaller but better suited for a skinny man who only needed his computer to be happy. He had one of the first TV-computer combinations. I failed to recall the name of the machine, however the logo is forever ingrained in my memory, used as a loading screen during the long buffering time of the dial-up connection. When you walked through the hallway at Mimo and Popi's house, there would be Popi with his door open, lying on his bed, arm behind his head, keyboard in his lap. I rarely thought about or questioned why they slept in separate bedrooms. My dad used to joke that it was the key to happiness and the only way that my grandmother would stick around through their 55-year marriage. My mother had a propensity for turning TV Land on in the background while doing chores at home. I regularly watched programs like I Love Lucy and The Dick Van Dyke Show, and those couples always slept in separate beds, perfectly staged in their room with matching pajamas. I figured that was just the way people their age did things. I was much older when I found out they had separate rooms due to Popi's nightmares. This diary entry is probably the thing that caught my attention most about his writing years ago. It was the comments about sleep. It was the first time I directly connected what happened to him in Vietnam to who he was when I knew him. That's not to minimize or forget about his PTSD, but as I've said before, a lot of the consequences of that weren't material. I didn't see them firsthand. I knew he had a problem with drinking once. I knew he was quiet. But these things weren't direct connections. The sleeping, however, was. Things happened over there that changed his life forever. But they didn't just change his life, they also changed other people's lives. They were changed in physical, material ways. Quote, everyone is still jumpy over the Bien Hoa incident. That caught my attention when I read this entry. Bien Hoa wasn't just an isolated attack. It had been a direct and deadly assault on an American airbase, leaving dozens killed and wounded. I think about how that sort of tension must have compounded with the typhoon alerts that night, the possibility of flare ships, grounded by weather, and the constant flares from the 81 mortar just outside his bunk. It paints a picture of the man lying awake, on edge, uncertain of whether the enemy would attack through the chaos of the rain, or if sleep would come at all. Knowing that he'd sleep in his own room at home because of nightmares, it all fits. Things happened over there that changed his life forever, affecting not just his own sleep, but also his family's routines. For Popi, a separate bedroom wasn't a luxury. It was a part of coping with the war's long shadow. When I think about those quiet nights at Mimo and Popi's, with him at his computer, I realize just how much he had to adjust and contain his own experiences, how they rippled out and reshaped the life we shared with him. This idea posed the question, where else did his experiences shape our family? In what small ways did his service in Vietnam change who we were? And how are those things still manifesting themselves daily? I guess we'll talk about it more later. The photo I chose for today depicts Hueys at night, participating in a training mission. Flares and tracer rounds filled the sky. The photo looks alien, ambient, and eerie. The film appears to have been exposed a little longer since it was nighttime after all. Though this isn't what Popi would have seen at night, with the mortars launching outside of his room and flares lighting up the sky. Is it what it would have felt like? Does the photo represent the feeling of being in that situation? Could the same be said for how the VC felt? I'm Alex Lowie, and I hope you have enjoyed listening to this episode of Dearest Suzie, and receiving messages from the past that my Popi wrote exactly 60 years ago. I sincerely appreciate your time and interest. Please consider following the podcast on your preferred platform, and if you're enjoying it, I kindly ask that you take the time to rate the show and leave a review. Also, please follow the project on YouTube, X, and Instagram. All likes, comments, shares, and reviews will help grow the reach of this story. The links for these things should be in the description of this episode. Please feel free to email me at dearestsuziepodcast@gmail.com if you have anything you'd like to say. I'd love to chat or to hear about your stories as well. Thank you for listening, and God bless.